Hello, everyone, and welcome to Creator Spotlight. My name is Randy Mitchell with Restream, and today I am joined here by Lynda Lippin, the CEO and Pilates goddess from the award-winning Lynda Lippin Pilates. We're talking about giving your health and fitness brand an edge by transitioning into full-time virtual teaching. If you know someone teaching health and fitness class or doing something on their own, make sure you tag them below or give them a text so they don't miss this live stream. Lynda helps women over the age of 50 increase their strength, mobility, and bone density. She has owned award-winning 6 and 7-figure Pilates studios, taught an A-list private island resort, while maintaining an A-list of clients as well. Lynda has trained hundreds of Pilates teachers through her Pilates Teacher Mastermind, a business accelerator program continuing her educational programs, helping Pilates teachers build their businesses that work for their lives. And it was all made possible through live video. Lynda, I'm so happy to have you on today's show. How's it going?
I'm good, Randy, and I'm so happy to be here.
Well, it's great to have you on the show today. I just know that our audience is going to get so much from this. They're going to get so much from it watching it live, and especially watching the replay to see how you've really made live video work for you and your business. And so that's mainly what I really want to talk about today. We invited you to be our guest today to talk about building your business that works for your life and genuinely connecting with your clients online, as well as what you learned about developing programs and masterminds along the way. To get started, I'd love to have you tell us about how you got involved with Pilates 30 years ago, and how has the industry changed since you joined in?
Well, I was an undergraduate at SUNY Purchase, which is now known as Purchase College, at just north of New York and of New York City. And we had a big dance department, and within the dance department, there actually existed a dedicated Pilates studio. And I was the VP of finance for student government. And at that time, the Pilates studio was being partly funded by student activity fees. So I mostly went in to see what they were doing with their money. But then I really liked it. It helped me feel better. It helped my body feel better. It got rid of some old, injuries, some joint pain, some knee pain, and really got me through, the end of my junior year and my full senior year of undergrad with, a bit of sanity. And I loved it a lot. And when I moved to Philadelphia in 88 to go to graduate school at Temple, my graduate degree is in philosophy, by the way. But Pilates used to be my part-time thing. There was an ad in the city paper, and it said Pilates part-time exercise instructors wanted, Pilates background preferred. And I had a teaching assistantship, so wanted a part-time job that really was out of academia and didn't have, a lot attached to it in that way. And so I went and interviewed, and I was the only person to interview who had ever seen the Pilates equipment or knew what the exercises were.
Gave you a bit
And
of an edge.
so I got that job. And at that point, there were really no Pilates teacher training programs like there are now. I mean, you basically found a teacher who knew what they were doing and hung out with them and apprenticed with them. And I did a little bit of that while I was still at Purchase with the folks there. But then when I was working in Philadelphia, I was working with a woman named Karen Carlson, who's now been teaching for about 50 years, still teaching in Philly, and was really able to hone in on really good kind of rehabilitative and really good client communication skills with her because, back then there was no internet.
Kind of like
So
working
you
your
couldn't
way
go
up.
online and learn.
Yeah.
There was none of that.
Speaking of which, you mentioned the online aspect of things. When did that transition? When did you go from, being the only person who's ever touched the Pilates equipment in this interview to being, online? What was your first, I guess, foray into going live and teaching your Pilates online, and what was that transition like?
Interesting that I first started doing anything digital with my Pilates business when I was living in Turks and Caicos. very small Caribbean island country. And at for 4 of my 6 years there, I was actually working at Como Parrot Key Resort, which is a private A-list island. So it's not like you could come see me in the Pilates studio unless, you wanted to be vetted and pay a hefty price and come over. So I started recording Pilates audios using GarageBand on my MacBook for my clients who were traveling. Then I started getting commissions for them from people who had seen me either at the hotel or, in a studio on the main island of Providenciales and wanted, that their class or their workout put together into an audio. And I found that most folks wanted audios because I don't do a lot of demonstrating when I teach. I teach verbally. And, folks were finding that if they were doing, say, a workout video, like one of Mari Windsor's videos or something, that what was happening was they were straining their necks looking at the videos.
Oh, okay.
So I started originally doing audios. Then I started teaching a little bit online again to those clients who couldn't get to me. But it was really it was hard because we had to kind of cobble it together through Skype and FaceTime. There was no Zoom, there was no GoTo, none of this existed. And I, did that for a while, which worked fine. Ultimately, I think I had some kind of desktop screen recording software that allowed me to at least record what was on my screen so I could record people's videos of their classes for them. But I've really been doing this in the online space for close to 15, 20 years now.
That's awesome. And I totally get exactly what you're saying about, your clients craning their neck to be able to see the screen. I've had that recently during the pandemic. I wasn't able to go to the gym as much, so I decided to start doing some fitness classes online, mostly yoga. And I found that it was exactly that, where they would just kind of announce the pose that they're going to do next and go right into it. And as somebody who's never done yoga before, I found myself staring at the screen, trying to understand, okay, that's how I got to get my body to look. And then I would start doing it and they'd be on to the next thing. And I'd be like, oh, just give me a break. Like go a little slower. So that kind of
Slow
makes me,
down.
yeah, just wait. I've never done this before. I'm not an expert. So that kind of makes me wonder, what kind of issues have there been that have arisen since you've pivoted to online content, or that you've done online content? Because, for example, if I was in a class, I could ask the instructor, "Hey, slow down a little bit. I can't keep up with your movements. I've never done this before. Maybe explain where you're gonna move your arm next." But you mentioned that you did audio, so how were there problems that arise versus being in person, or how has that been for you so far?
I really think that fitness instructors generally, and I'm going to kind of lump in all of us, whether we're doing regular personal training, whether we're teaching yoga, dance, Zumba, Pilates, whatever it is, there one skill that I think is really important to hone in on is the ability to cue people well verbally. And that includes breaking down the exercises into easily digestible component parts that you can teach people verbally. And continual repetition will ultimately help people learn. So, another thing that I find really problematic in the way a lot of folks are teaching and in general and online is that they feel like people need to be excited by their workouts so that they want to do different things every time. But as you just said, if you come into a class and you don't know the exercises and you don't know the poses and people are just like announcing, "Oh, we're going to do the 100 next, or we're going to do this next," and you have no idea what that is, then you don't even know what position to get into or where you are. So what I end up always doing and have always done even in the studio is I set the whole thing up. You know, you're going to be laying on your back, you're going to bring your knees into your chest, maybe you're going to curl your head up. We're going to find a place where you can keep your abdominals in and keep your back down and hold your legs straight. And now we're going to do this exercise so that everybody knows what that is. And then after a few repetitions of that, then you hear, oh, we're doing the 100 now. You know what position to get into. And then it's simply my role, if I'm teaching a live class, to watch you do it and say, no, 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 you need to come back down by your shoulder blades, or your legs are too low, your back's coming up, or, you know, little things like that. But it's really up to me. I mean, I consider myself to be a teacher in that. So in the same way that I used to have to stand in front of a group of bored undergraduates and try to explain Kant's categorical imperative, you know, I feel like that's kind of the level of teaching that I need to bring to my Pilates clients. And all of them have been shocked at how well they do online
That's so
and
awesome to
how much
hear.
I see online. So, yeah.
Yeah, because my main worry, being a technical person myself, I've done a lot of customer support roles and helping people fix their computers and stuff. And I find sometimes it would be so much easier if I could just grab their keyboard and mouse and do it for them. Do you ever find that frustration when you're trying to help somebody through the camera? Like you want them to do a very specific pose and they're just not getting it, and you wish you could just maybe ask them, "Can I move your arm for you?" But you can't do that because of the online medium.
Yes, but then I'll think to myself, what's interesting is that I'll then think to myself, if I was going to be doing this for them in the studio or live, where would I be touching them? Where
Hmm.
would my hand be right now? And then I'll say to them, if we were together, my hand would be on the back of your rib cage and you would be pressing your rib cage up into my hand. And then
Oh,
they're
that's
like,
really
oh,
interesting.
okay, I can do that.
So you're almost like verbally walking them through what you would normally be physically walking them through. That's really awesome. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, yeah. And I just do it verbally.
It makes
And
me
again,
wonder.
after repetition, people get it. So again, you know, these teachers who are just like every class has to be new, different, interesting, and exciting, their clients aren't getting it. They're not getting it. So,
Mhm.
you know, I want my clients to get it. I want them to get the work in their bodies. I want them to kind of know what the positions are. And then we can go for variations and like new stuff from there. But, you know, you can't go making complex words if you don't know your alphabet and if you don't know the basic words.
Exactly. It makes me wonder, throughout the pandemic, especially with you being in NYC, I'm sure you have lots of other people around you that are doing Pilates, and you mentioned your mastermind groups. Have you had a lot of eagerness from other Pilates teachers in your network to get online? And have they run into any issues that you've had to help walk them through, or maybe you have students that have come into your class in the past and worked with you in person, and now you're trying to transition them onto online? How's that all been for you? Has it been like, what can you walk us through that process?
Yeah, so you know, at the very beginning of the pandemic, I had already been teaching clients online. So I have had a bunch of Pilates instructors that I work with all over the world. You know, I teach them in their studios or at home. And so I was used to doing that. I was used to Zoom. We had kind of done that whole thing. And what I noticed was that there was a real reticence of Pilates teachers to want to teach online. One reason for that is that for many, many years within the professional Pilates community, people basically denigrated on online and not in-person services. So what was interesting was that you had a bunch of Pilates teachers who had spent a lot of money on equipment and rent for their studios, right? So they had spent years and years telling their clients that the equipment work was the important work, that it was the best work, that it was the work they would maybe pay more for as opposed to the mat work or the body weight work. Then all of a sudden, COVID hits, No one's going into a Pilates studio. And suddenly they have to sell mat as being as good as the apparatus work when they've just spent X number of years telling their clients how crappy mat is, right? Or how it's not as good, or it's like the travel version of the exercises.
Mhm.
Then you also had a bunch of, propaganda, a serious amount of propaganda out there in the Pilates community, that basically told teachers that they could not teach online, that people needed hands on work, that you needed to be able to see the body in front of you. Frankly, if you're a good teacher, you can see the body in front of you through a really good camera. And everyone's phone has a really good camera at this point, um, as well as you can if they're standing in front of you. And it turns out that the mat work is extraordinarily good and useful. And in fact, Joseph Pilates developed his work when he was interned as an enemy alien by the British during the First World War. And he wasn't working with apparatus at that point. He was teaching them, mat work that you could do in a small space.
Yeah, because that was before the equipment was even there. No one had thought of the equipment yet, so they're
Exactly. So my initial trainings right after COVID were basically on just how to set it up, how to set up your Zoom, how to set up some kind of online payment portal through PayPal or other things. A lot of Pilates teachers were still taking money through things like Venmo and Zelle, which were not, as we know, I mean, those are consumer payment options. They're not necessarily business payment options. You don't have, the any kind of guarantees or any kind of protections on either the buyer or seller side, like you do if you're using a credit card through a Stripe or a PayPal or a Square or your bank, or whoever's doing that processing. I mean, there's some things that we should be paying fees for. And
exactly.
there's a reason why. And, as I've said to my Pilates teachers in my mastermind, if your business can't absorb 2.9% on a transaction, you need to be looking at your margins
Mhm.
because you're running, way too close and way too close to your edge. Um,
It's
and,
interesting.
there are still teachers who are not teaching online and never have and just don't want to. And that's their prerogative.
Mhm. It's interesting that you mentioned the barrier of entry. Well, not so much a barrier as you mentioned. You've broken down that barrier a lot with your live video, but that barrier of, I'm going to get into Pilates. I'm going to need this equipment. I'm going to need this. I'm going to need that. I feel like it's almost like live streaming in a way where it's like, okay, I need a microphone. I need a camera. I need lights. I need this. I need that. I need this. Do you find that you have to? I know you mentioned that just having your clients join you in the class, they'll probably learn right from you that, oh, I don't need all this equipment. She's an amazing
Right.
teacher. I'm getting through this. But do you find that you have to work a bit longer with clients in the beginning, where it's like, this is going to be online. I know you've heard this preconceived notions about Pilates equipment. Let me put that to rest, or how does that look?
Really, not as much. I have clients who have their own Pilates equipment. There's a lot of inexpensive things already in the marketplace that people can use to mimic some of the Pilates apparatus. The Physical Mind Institute here in New York sells something called a Tie 4, which is literally bungees attached to kind of like a backpack strap that you just put on, and so you have, resistance like springs going into your hands and your feet, but from your body. You don't have to grab them. I've also found that, bands and tubing with wall anchors can mimic the springs extraordinarily well. Um, Light weights work well. Some of my clients have exercise balls. Some of them have Pilates magic circles. You can buy those on Amazon now for $20. And so it's actually really easy to put together foam roller, maybe small amount of stuff that doesn't take up a lot of room, but that still, allows you to get a little more of maybe the equipment feel or a little more variety in the workout. It's just important, on the teacher side that you have experimented with it and know how it works so that you can explain again to the client what they're doing. So if I'm working with people who I know have worked in a Pilates studio and they've been on the apparatus, and I'm doing something with them with the band with their legs, I can say to them, this is like that leg spring exercise on the Cadillac. This is like when we do this on the reformer. And then they're like, oh, that's awesome.
That is really awesome. I love the idea of it, like almost like it's not really do it yourself Pilates because you have such a great teacher yourself there with them. But I do almost feel like it's do it yourself to a degree where it's like, hey, you already have these things around your house, most likely. Just go grab it. We'll use it as part of the workout, and then it can go right back on the shelf for for when you need to for whatever its actual purpose is.
Yeah. And, Joe Pilates wanted Pilates to spread. He didn't want it to just be for the elite. He wanted, schools to have Pilates equipment. He wanted just people to be able to do the work. And frankly, I mean, to buy, especially with supply chain issues right now, to get new Pilates equipment, it's a minimum of a 4 to 5 month wait
Geez.
and thousands of dollars plus shipping. So in terms of options, both for teachers and for their clients, if you want to take out that 5-figure loan and buy that equipment and wait those months and get it and be precious about it and have your clients come in, that's great. But what happens if we have a different pandemic again? What happens
Exactly.
if this one comes back and for some reason, we have to shut down again? Like New York City just went into high alert last week, right? Because the numbers are up. Now they're still not forcing people to mask in public, but they've advised everybody to mask all the time. And whenever that happens, I think to myself, oh, I'm so happy that I just work from home.
Like, oh, my job's not going to be affected by this.
Right.
I'm
Right.
not going to have to worry about not getting people into the studio. Oh, well, we have to stand this far apart, which is probably even at some point the amount of distance you have to stand away from your client. I almost feel like you might as well go online. If you're standing, you have to stand 20 feet away from them
Yeah.
or however how many it be. But you're like, well, I mean, we would be actually a lot closer together if we were on a camera almost because you could move the camera right up to you, right?
Exactly. So there's actually a lot of times where I have a better view of what's going on with my client's body online than I did when I was in the studio.
That's awesome.
And my clients also like it. Like one of my ladies is in Italy this week and she brought her Thai 4 with her. I sent her a few workout videos. We did it, for a solid week before she left because she has tons of small apparatus, so we do all kinds of stuff. And she was set for her week of being able to go away.
That's awesome. It's like going on vacation. You do get to go on vacation, but you don't have to be like, all right, so this is going to be a cheat week. I'm not going to do any exercise, and I'm going to eat whatever I want when I'm on vacation. You can almost break that mindset where it's like you may be on vacation, you can enjoy yourself, but maybe keep up with your exercises, keep up with your daily stuff. Speaking
Yeah.
of which, working directly one to one with clients or working in big groups. How has that been like switching to online? For example, I know working one to one, I feel has changed a bit, but as you mentioned, the online has been you've conquered the online. You know exactly how to work with your clients that way. But when it comes to a big group setting, have you tried that online, and what kind of issues have come along with trying to coach a big group of people all trying to do Pilates at once?
The only issues really that we come up with is if somebody else is having a tech issue, right? Maybe they're dropping in and out because they're somewhere where they don't have really good service or they don't have really good data. A lot of folks also, especially in my generation of people, I'm 55, I'll be 56 in a few months, that we all somehow think that the laptop has a better camera because we can see better on the laptop screen. And people don't necessarily trust their phone cameras. And I always tell people your phone cameras are fabulous. Like the phone cameras are like the latest cameras. So even though you only see a small screen, and for me, I'm not demonstrating a lot anyway, so it's not like they really need to look at me that much. I'm like, you can use your phone. Use your phone with your data service if you can't get to your Wi-Fi, and that's all fine. But I love teaching the larger groups. I mean, I think that, doing regular live videos, which I do routinely, at least weekly on all of my social channels and in my groups, gives people an idea of who I am, how I speak, and how I teach. So the majority of women who say come into my Strong Bones programs or my online studio where I'm teaching the larger classes already have kind of an affinity with me and fit right into the group. So it's like on Sunday, I taught a Pilates with weights class, and I had clients in Duluth, Minnesota, on the island of Jamaica, in New York City, out in the Hamptons. We just had, and Seattle,
Wow, that's awesome.
all being in class together and being able to kind of hang out and do their Pilates. And for some of these women, they've actually become friends through the online classes. They like send each other presents.
I was just about to ask that. Have you had any clients who have just become really good friends with other clients in your classes?
Yes, and these are people who have never met in real life,
That's
but they
awesome.
send each other gifts and they know each other's spouses, and yeah.
Connecting through the online medium of Pilates. I love it. Um, Speaking of which, we probably have some other health, fitness, and wellness brands or instructors themselves who are currently in this chat or watching the replay and are curious about using live video to promote their products or services. Do you have any advice for somebody in that boat who's just about to embark on the same voyage you did? I think you said 15 years ago, and getting into that live video and online health and wellness space.
One thing is if you're really unclear on what you're doing, is get a coach to do it, to help walk you through it. I was kind of scared of live video for a while there, and I ended up, my first video coach was very much a proponent of, all you have to do to go live is click a button. You have to open your phone, open an app, and hit a button. So you can do it anywhere and you can do it about anything. And he just started giving me these, random, he would give us like random assignments of just personal things to talk about and stories to tell in 2 minutes on your Facebook Live, and just do it. And I started doing that, and that's how I became more comfortable. And at first I would just, I would either use my phone mic or my computer mic or just my regular headphones or my cordless headphones. It's only, lately that I've got my good mic, that, I've got my better lighting, that I found kind of a better space in my apartment to do this. But, randomly I would just pop on. And the more people, I mean, again, people buy from services from people they know, like, and trust. And live video is the easiest way to kind of blow through the know, like, and trust factor,
I love that.
especially if you're, and again, this is where just kind of going on and saying something is helpful, because no one needs to see the highly produced you. Like, if, for example, if you and I got together at Starbucks for a coffee, this is what I would look like and sound like. I'm not highly produced right now. I'm just Lynda on video doing a thing.
I love that idea of connecting personally with somebody through live video. That's something that I personally preach all the time when I'm talking with smaller brands who are like, "Oh, well, I want to get into live video, but I'm not chasing the numbers. I'm not looking to be the top streamer." And there's a lot to be said in just how much brand recognition and one-to-one connection that you can get by somebody jumping into your live streams and meeting Lynda as she is. Uh, she's a great teacher. She's going to teach you exactly what you need. This is who you're going to be working with, and just that instant connection, I feel, is something special. You mentioned that you worked with coaches in the past. to help you with your live video. It makes me wonder now, so late into the game, are you still working with a coach or a production crew, or is it more of a solo one woman type show when you go
At
live to
this
your audience?
point, it's a little bit more of a solo one woman live show, because I've gotten pretty good at the live video situation. I also do a lot of interviews myself that will be turning into a podcast in in the next few months, where I'll just take the audios and the videos and kind of repurpose them. And that's the other thing, is videos can all be repurposed. So, one of the things, I'll plug Restream a little bit right now. One of the things that I love about Restream is that I can download the videos and the audios in full or in part, right? I can take them. This is where I might use a virtual assistant, as someone who specializes in that, have them, cut them into smaller clips that I can then use as reels, that I can then use as stories, that I can then put all over the place. Um, and it used to be a giant pain to try to go live everywhere at one time, right? You'd have to have like multiple devices up to work with that situation. But, now, between your streams and my streams, at this moment, we're probably going live in, 10 different places.
Yep. I think 12 in total because of you added your channels to this broadcast, which is awesome. Thank you for doing that, by the way.
Yeah, yeah. And that, again, that ability for the people who you're talking to. So say I do want to do an interview with somebody, those folks can add their live streams and have this video as part of, their library of streaming media as well. Uh, I think that it's so important because social media services still prefer live stream video, period, end of discussion. And a lot of folks also don't realize that with a service like Restream, that there's also the option of doing, I think, what you guys call the fake live. And
Yes.
all that means is you pre-recorded the video and it gets put out as a live video, so that people get the same notifications and all of those things as they would from a live video. Restream creates the event, kind of does the whole thing kind of for you in the back end. And if you're, super scared of going live by yourself and just doing it, this way you can record it and
Mhm.
just put it out as live later on.
And I think that's so important. Repurposing your live video in general, getting it on those social media platforms, uploading them as native videos, or going live are all fantastic ways to grow your organic reach. And I definitely don't want to take away from that point because I just think it's so important. But I just wanted to hit back on that other point you made earlier about streaming with coaches and coaches helping you get into your live stream. I feel like that's if I was watching this stream and I thought, okay, I'm going to get into live streaming, I'm going to get a coach, they're going to help me with this live video stuff, I'm going to get online. What can that person expect from that experience of working with a live stream coach? What did you take away personally from your time working with live stream coaches uh,
Well,
in the beginning?
first of all, what I took away was that you don't have to be super produced. Okay. We somehow all have gotten used to watching a lot of professionally produced video. And we've also gotten used to watching a lot of folks who are not putting their actual true selves out online. So sometimes, it's happened to me. I've met a lot of, A-list celebrities, and there are some who I thought were going to be awesome who were not as nice, and some who I thought were not going to be, who were just lovely. So, people are people, but we tend to only see that kind of highly produced side of them. And what I learned working with a video coach is that especially if you're doing personal services work, which is what fitness pros do, that is actually not what our clients want out of our live videos, right? What they want is to actually learn something from us, to see us how we really are. Who is the person I'm going to be working with when I'm online? Or who is the person I'm going to be working with when I'm in the studio? Who am I going to be meeting? And if you're not sure, that's where the coach comes in, right? They can also help you hone in on different things, what your core values are, who your niche is in your market, who it is that you're talking to, and then kind of figuring out what you want to say to those people.
And where did you find your online video coaches? Is there like a certain space that you looked for, or did you just reach out to existing people that you knew who were already live streaming and ask them for tips and tricks?
I've actually been extraordinarily lucky in my life, especially during the time that I was in the Caribbean, because what I did is I was kind of so isolated in my little, bubble island, that I spent a lot of time online kind of reaching out to other coaches and other instructors. And in doing that, I ended up in a few groups of really awesome trainers and awesome consultants. And the first video coach that I worked with was a man named Mark Whitehand, who is still doing video coaching. He has a free Facebook group, he has a paid coaching group. And Mark, many, many moons ago, was a personal trainer in the UK. And I had kind of met him and we had connected in that way. But then it was, you know how people kind of show up when I needed the help in doing the live videos and really getting comfortable doing it. Suddenly there he was. And I kept a watch on his space, and he basically opened up a challenge that was, I think, really inexpensive. It was like $50 or something. And the idea was that if you got through the end of the challenge and did all of the assignments, he would either give you your money back, or you could apply it, to your first payment for his paid coaching program. And I had such a great experience during the 7 days or 10 days or whatever the first challenge was, that I just stayed. And so I stayed with him for a good year and really kind of built my skills in doing the videos. And then I moved on to some more, I was in Kelly Roach's Unstoppable Entrepreneur program for a year. I kind of moved up into kind of higher level coaching, really honing in on the video live launching. Then getting a little more into, getting some better equipment, better microphones, all of that. But it really all started with, this guy basically saying to me, Lynda, just open up the app and hit the button and say things.
Hit the red button and talk and smile and nod. I love it. I
Exactly.
also love the idea, the way that he kind of brought you into the program of, hey, what I'm gonna say is really worth your time. But if you don't agree, here's your $50 back if you get it to the end of the trial. And obviously, he did have something very interesting to teach you, because you stayed for so long and you've become such a titan in the live streaming Pilates world that it's probably the best praise that he could have gotten from you. It kind of brings me to my final point, and it has to do with your clients or the people that have attended your Pilates class or other instructors that you've worked with in the past. I know personally, my favorite thing about live streaming is when you're able to, touch somebody right where they are, teach them something that they did need to know, that they didn't even know they needed to know, or change their life for the better. Personally, we've had, live shows in the past where we've brought on people such as yourself who've had great stories to share with our audience, and it's gone on to lead to remarkable things. So I wonder, have you come across that with your clients? They've joined your instruction courses, they've gone through, they made friends, and now they've gone on to something else, or anything along those lines? I'd love to hear.
Yeah, so almost all of the Pilates teachers that have gone through my online Pilates teacher mastermind programs of any form, whether they've done the Pilates Profit Lab, teaching online workshops, whether they've done the online continuing education programs with me, they are all feeling really good. And they're all still connected with each other as well as staying connected with me. And that's actually been lovely. And I love that. But even better is the kind of change that I see in the Pilates clients that I work with. It's to the point now where, with my strong bones osteoporosis programming, I even have some folks who follow me online signing up their moms, for the program because they really believe that it's going to work for them. And I have a woman who I started with just this week. She just did, her third class with me yesterday, and she has compression fractures and lupus and all kinds of things, and she's a hospital administrator, so has been rounded over a desk for decades. And she told me that she had tried going to the gym to see a personal trainer live, and she lasted 11 minutes because just in the time on the treadmill she started cramping and started not feeling well, and they couldn't figure out what to do with her. In 1 week, she has managed to do 3 45-minute exercise sessions
Wow.
and didn't even realize that they were that long when she got done with them, and felt fine with a little bit of soreness. So, this work can have such profound effects on clients and on how they're feeling and what they're doing. And they don't have to worry about driving someplace and going someplace, and are they going to get parking, and are they going to get stuck in traffic. I mean, for a lot of my clients, the beauty of doing the online stuff is just that they're saved that 30 to 60 minutes of travel to and from the studio. They get everything that they need done, and they walk away feeling better for it. So now what I've started to do is, in my continuing education programs within Pilates Teacher Mastermind, is really talk more to the teachers about how do we talk to, and how do we start programming for these people who are not getting served in the in-person space. They're
I
not.
love I love that idea of people being able to do all this from home, and making such great progress, going from 11 minutes being tough to 3 45 minutes is incredible. I also feel, to add on to your point, that if you're uh, or at least personally, I feel like you can almost push yourself harder when you're in your own space, because when you're comfortable, there's nobody else watching you, you're in your own home. But then also afterwards, the camera shuts off, you're on your couch, like you're home. You don't have to be like, I'm so drained, I worked so hard, now I have to get in the car and drive 35 minutes through traffic, and everything else you mentioned. I feel like just
Exactly. You
the
can make yourself a
exhaustion.
cup of coffee and sit down. Like there's nothing else that you have to kind of deal with, with that. And it's also, I feel like, and Kelly Roach kind of taught me this very early on in my work with her, which is that if we as providers really have a service that works, and that works really well, and that helps people live better lives because they're more functional, they're stronger, they're more mobile, they're feeling better, then we are actually doing a disservice to the world by not putting ourselves out there online and not giving people the opportunity to work with us. And when she framed it in that way for me, I was like, actually, that makes perfect sense. And so now all of these women who I work with, who have left me 5-star Google reviews and Yelp reviews and all the things, are not women who would be seeing me live and in person, because again, they're on the West Coast, or they're up in Minnesota, or they're somewhere in the Caribbean, or they're somewhere in Europe. And now they're able to.
That is awesome. You mentioned a couple times. I know we're kind of getting to the end of today's show, but I just wanted to throw one more question your way because you've mentioned it a couple times throughout the show, and I mentioned at the beginning. But what is it really like to join your mastermind classes? If we have any people in the audience watching today who are interested in doing Pilates instruction and they want to do it live, what would they gain out of doing your mastermind course and take away from it?
Well, for folks who are actual Pilates teachers and Pilates professionals who want to learn more about teaching clients generally and in the online space in particular, really what I offer in my mastermind is all of that. So I go through, if I'm teaching right now, I'm finishing an osteoporosis workshop today with a group of clients. And then I start next week working with teaching for chronic back pain. But I'm able to go through all of the apparatus work, all of the mat work, all of the same stuff that you would be learning if you were sitting listening to me in a Pilates studio, or listening to me in a, rented room someplace in a dance, rehearsal space, which is where a lot of these, workshops take place. But again, you can be in your studio, so I can say, hey, if you want to feel what that feels like, let's jump on your reformer right now, and I'll show you what the difference is in doing that. In doing private sessions, I think is really the best way to get work online, whether it's a Pilates teacher or a Pilates consumer, because you're really just getting all of the attention, and you're getting a bespoke kind of exercise plan and program that's really created for you and around you. And people are amazed, really, from the teacher side and from the client side, at how easy ultimately it is to be able to do that. With this client I was just talking about, I she missed one of the classes, but I knew her well enough after 2 sessions to be able to cue her. Like, I gave her specific cues so that when she watched the replay,
Hmm,
she would hear the specific things that I knew she was going to have an issue with.
that's awesome. That level
Just
of
from watching her
personalization is amazing.
twice, yeah, I was able to see, oh, when she lifts her left leg, her hip hikes or something, whatever. And then I would just go, hey, when you're watching this replay, you're going to make sure that that hip stays down, right? Or,
That's
or
awesome.
whatever that looks like. And so I think that, if people join my online mastermind as Pilates teachers or fitness pros, or they just want to come in and try a class, or look at the on-demand studio, or do privates online, that, the experience that you're going to have is very similar in terms of community feel and teacher feel to what you would get in a studio, except
That's
that you don't actually have to go out and put a mask on.
you get to do it all from the comfort of your own home.
Hmm.
So that's phenomenal. I think that's amazing. Especially like the way you've worked with people online, the way they've been able to work on their own strength and their own comfort level, and all from the comfort of their own home, I think is incredible. And I'm honored that you use Restream to broadcast to your multiple channels at once, so that we can, at least in a very small, like 0.2%, help you deliver your message to your audience and foster that connection. But of course, it comes from you being such an awesome, caring person. If we have anybody in our audience today who is looking to find out more about you, or they want to take part in your mastermind courses, I'd love to throw it over to you now to give you opportunity to talk directly to our audience, tell them where they can find you, where they can go after this stream to interact with you, and where they can learn more about you.
Great. Thank you, Randy. So the first place to go is check out my website, which is lindalippin.com, spelled just like my name. And there's a whole lot of information on there. If you are active on Facebook, I have two Facebook groups that would be useful. One is called Pilates Profit Lab, that is for Pilates teachers and fitness professionals. And then the other is called Strong Bones Pilates, and that is my consumer group that is more geared to the women over 50 with chronic pain and or osteoporosis. There are plenty of Pilates teachers and fitness pros who fit into that group of consumers over 50 with osteoporosis and other issues. So people can feel free to join me on either side in terms of the groups. You can feel free to email me, Lynda@lyndalippin.com. I'm open also to DMs. I'm on all social, either as Lynda Lippin or Lynda Lippin Pilates. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook. I'm there, and feel free to DM me. Feel free to, reach out in any way.
It's been such a pleasure to talk to you today, Lynda. Thank you so much for educating myself and our audience about the work that you do with live video and the things that you've done with Pilates. It's been such an enlightening conversation, and I wish you the best of the rest of your day.
Thank you. You too, Randy. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.